Hey friends, this is Marilyn from tarotclarity.com, and today's video, I'm spacing it with several videos in between this and the last of the Etteilla videos that I released a week or so ago, because I want to give you guys a breather. Not all of my subscribers are interested in Etteilla, and I did do quite a few Etteilla deck comparisons with other decks. One of my subscribers did nicely ask me to do a comparison of the Etteilla with Dr Moorne, and I agreed to do it, but like I mentioned, I want to put a breather between this video and all the others. Now, the Etteilla deck that I'm using is going to be, of course, Marco Benedetti's deck, and the Dr Moorne deck that I'm using is just this simple deck that I did a video on probably at least a year ago, probably from my previous home. It was, I don't know how I even came across this deck, but it caught my eye and I bought it. I have no idea who Dr Moorne was, but you can see it has the Egyptian motif and system references. The title is on the front of the box is The Supreme Art of Listening to the Cards, or The Best Way to Listen to the Cards, or something like that. Rough translation on my part. I've put the cards in numeric order. I didn't try to match up which cards seem to go together. I just put them in Etteilla's order because Etteilla came first, and if this deck is based on Etteilla, then we're going to go by Etteilla's rules. I don't know how well each number will jibe with one another, but it's the way it is. I'm not going to do too much commentary between what's written or what the meaning of each card is. If you want to know what the meanings of Etteilla's cards are, I did a bunch of videos on that topic. Go back and look at them. This one will be merely we're looking at the pictures. Perhaps if one or two words pop out at us, then maybe I'll mention it. Let me flip the camera and we'll get to it. Okay, I do want to mention that each of the decks comes with some type of insert. With Marco's, we have a French insert, which seems to have some authenticity to the original deck. I tried to Google Translate, but perhaps because it was old French or whatever, the translation is not very good. So I'll have to get a more reliable method to translate that. The deck for Dr Moorne just came with two insert cards describing the contents of the box. Here is the back of each. Notice that Dr Moorne's, there's two different colors, but the backs of the deck match the lighter color. So this insert may have been added to a later publication or something. Okay. I know here is the one exception of having the numerics, the numbers being different. We have 0 for Etteilla and 78 for Dr Moorne, but clearly it's the same card, so I put it in Etteilla's order. As I mentioned with Etteilla, number 2 and I think number 8 card, I'm not sure, I'll have to mention it when we get to it, seem to be cards designated for male and female querent. This one seems to be for the male querent. I'm not sure that this card satisfies that. I can't speak on it, I don't know, but I think perhaps it doesn't. However, this does seem to jibe with, these two cards rather seem to jibe with one another, as does this one. And we noticed in many of the pip cards of the Etteilla that we have a lot of areas of yellow and fields of yellow on the bottom. We don't see it in his Triumph cards, but we do see it in the pips. So this too seems to jibe. There's similarities, although this seems to be making a reference to well, could be here as well. I was going to say Adam and Eve. So if you have a penchant for connecting, Hebrew letters and Egyptian motif and thought processing, then this Dr. Moorne's deck is probably another deck that you can add to your repertoire of such decks. And if you can ever get to the bottom and explain to me who Dr. Moorne was, or if it was just the name given to the deck for commercial purposes, let me know that too. But see, it does appear as though we have pictorial references between them. Oh yes, we definitely seem to have connections between the numbers and the images. I'm sorry if you hear dogs barking in the background. I do have my window open. I try to drown out the sounds besides myself, in order to give you, a more quality video. But I don't think my sound limitation button works so great. Or maybe these headphones that I have aren't the best quality. Oh my goodness, it looks like I have some of these upside down, so I will just take the opportunity to do that rather than turn them all upside down. So this one gives us even like an idea of what the Western deck correlation might have been, and the tarot, TDM tarot may have been, which I think is kind of interesting. Or this may be more like the Spanish deck rather than TDM, actually, more like a Spanish deck. The Spanish suits. So if you're a person who likes to interpret cards and you like to have a whole lot of fancy embellishments on them, and I think probably it would impress your clientele to think that, for them to think that you understand what all these different meanings might be. Dr. Moorne's deck is probably a good deck to use. So Dr. Moorne does seem, for the most part, just about, completely jibes his numbers with Etteilla's, And he does a nice job in relating what these images are in other types of decks. And I think this one probably is more in keeping with the Spanish playing card, and this with the French style of what we're accustomed to. I'm not thinking that this is connecting to TDM, although it could be. Except it doesn't seem to have, this doesn't seem to correspond to the TDM layout of the images of the, suit pieces. And as we've started to notice, we have the yellow field on the bottom. And so many of them in Etteilla's deck has the plain yellow field, but each one of them is different, and we have a keyword that indicates what the meaning is for the reversal. I think when I see cards, that have a lot of different systems imprinted on it, it's like, here's astrology, here's Kabbalistic, here's Egyptian, I'm just, they just, sometimes they seem like a lot of things are thrown into the deck, to some decks. Maybe it makes it a little more impressive, or if somebody is not proficient in one system, but they see another system represented, they can go on that. Maybe they're more universal. Maybe they're more, what's the word? I can't think of the word. So it seems if you can read Etteilla's deck, you can clearly read this deck, and these other things are just embellishments in addition to the original Etteilla image or word meaning. Let's see, let's just... So I think this is just the French meaning for this one. Which is written in Spanish. Versatility, I guess. So if you're proficient, when I was using the word universal and I couldn't think of the word versatility. So if you're not well versed on one method, but you see another system imprinted upon, that you can latch onto the system you're familiar with. Or if you just know what each one of the cards means, you don't have to rely on additional symbols. You just need to know what the cards themselves mean. So I probably will have lost many of you by now because you're probably really not interested in seeing all these cards to the bitter end. But some of you are just loyal and you just hang in there with me. And I appreciate it because it gives me better clout with the algorithms. And I try to keep this channel free, so that you don't have to become members. And so for those of you who just put your headphones on and do your housework and let the commercials play and let the whole thing play out, I really appreciate that you make that effort for me because it helps me in being able to afford some of these decks. I'm not a person of unlimited means. I go without a lot of things. I go without clothes. I go without shoes. I wear the same shoes, and I have shoes. It's not like I don't have clothes, but I'll wear the same outfits over and over because I don't have that many. Because my priorities are in, things, my passion, which is tarot and collecting cards. So, it's, some people say, oh, you must have a lot of money. It's like, well, no, I'm driving a 25-year-old car, and I'm not kidding. I drive a 25-year-old car. So I'm not a person who's rolling in dough. Okay. I spend my money on the things that matter. And this is one of the things that matter. I spend money on my health. I make sure I see the doctor. I spend money on my grandchildren. My grandchildren want for nothing, if I can help it. And their own parents, of course, don't really need me. But, if they do, I'm right there. But, it's funny because of the things that get shortchanged, it's usually myself, as far as, having clothes or the jewelry. All the jewelry I have is jewelry that I've had for decades. Nothing new. Occasionally my husband will buy me something nice like a watch or whatever, but so please don't think that I have all this money. I appreciate if you hang in there with the commercials and if you hang in there to the bitter end of my videos, because it really does help with the algorithms, which in turn helps me afford to buy new decks every now and then. So I hope you've been noticing the similarities with these little things for the reversal. So Moorne seems to slip in the reversal. Not on the bottom, but in this little inserted space. That's quite different, isn't it? Okay, I hope you've enjoyed it, and to the subscriber who requested this, I hope you watched it to the bitter end. I did this for you. Until next time, friends, peace, stay well, be kind, and do no harm.